Congress leaves for a 3-week vacation in less than 24 hours, and Senator Dick Durbin still refusing to subpoena Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs. We're running out of patience. It's been 4.5 years since authorities raided the dead pedophiles' homes, and we haven't heard a peep. Who protects a dead pedophile when children are raped? Now, if Trump's the dangerous dictator shredding our Constitution like the Democrats say he is, why are they so focused on the Epstein files of all things? The White House says it's pure politics. There's nothing righteous about what Democrats are asking for. It's just another political attack.
So just to answer Jesse Watters circa 2023 in regard to who protects pedophiles, I guess people like you do, Jesse Watters, because now he's done a complete 180 when it comes to the release of the Epstein files. And we should ask why, because Democratic Senator Dick Durbin has also done a 180 when it comes to the release of the Epstein files. He previously blocked the release, now all of a sudden he's calling for the release. So look, Jesse Watters isn't alone in this. Media Matters for America claims that Will Cain has also radically switched positions on the release of the Epstein files, Cenk.
Yeah, so guys, I want you to notice the difference between right-wing hosts who are on Fox News and the hosts that are no longer on Fox News or cable news at all. Because one side has been liberated and the other side has not. And guys like Jesse Watters and Will Cain get paid a ton of money by Rupert Murdoch, who has always supported Israel. Now, I don't know why he wants to bury the Epstein files, but that is what's happening, and you're about to see it clear as you can.
So let's focus on Will Cain first, because after Ghislaine Maxwell was found guilty of sex trafficking minors on behalf of Epstein back in 2021, this is what Will Cain had to say.
It's true, as you said, Nancy, it's justice tonight that Ghislaine Maxwell sleeps uneasily behind bars. But I think everyone watching is concerned that justice stops here, which would be an injustice, because clearly she was trafficking these young women to other people, to individuals, and you would have to suspect beyond Jeffrey Epstein. The prosecution has shown very little interest. In fact, they've discouraged any names coming out in this trial, quote unquote, third parties. And so I have to wonder, with everything found in his apartment, CDs, binders, Nancy, will we get those names? Beyond whether or not they will be corroborated, will somebody ask, Nancy, will we pursue that next step in justice? It will be an injustice if this is the end of the story and not the beginning of the story.
Yes, it will. If there are other perpetrators, no matter how prestigious they may be, no matter how wealthy they may be, if they are not sought out and prosecuted, that is an injustice.
Agreed, it's an injustice, absolutely. It was an injustice when Democrats had power, and it's an injustice now that the Epstein files are not being released and there's no transparency on the matter. However, that was a video from December of 2021. Where does Will Cain stand on this matter today now that Republicans are in charge?
This is not a real emergency. He was not asked to send in the National Guard or take over the police by the House or the Senate or the mayor or the DC Council. This looks to me like an emergency which is manufactured because of a public relations crisis relating to the Epstein file. He doesn't want to release the Epstein file, so he wants everybody to look in another direction.
But let's take Jamie Raskin at his own words. Was this a distraction because of a public relations disaster? Well, let's go to the tail of the tape on that very same network, CNN.
Google searches for Epstein down 89% versus just 3 weeks ago, falling through the floor. It is no longer the top term searched alongside Donald Trump's name. That's Trump's approval rating. In July of 2025, it was 45%. It's still well within that margin of error here at 44%.
I, like many of you watching, am interested in the truth about Jeffrey Epstein. But that doesn't support the idea that Donald Trump would need to manufacture a distraction to keep everybody's attention and turn their heads away from something that apparently not very many people are interested in, according to the data.
Not very many people are interested in it based on Google searches for Epstein files?
No, you see, we pointed this out when CNN was doing this. So what do we tell you guys all the time? Whenever it's the donor class, those cable news outlets that pretend to be fighting, boom, they unite immediately. So CNN does a segment. Now, Enton normally does polls, but the polls are very bad for Trump and anyone hiding Epstein files, right? So they don't do polls. For the first time, they do Google searches. And they go, oh, dude, the Google searches are down. No one cares, no one cares. Don't talk about Epstein. It's super weird, guys. Yeah. Super weird. And then now Fox News, Will Cain, who was saying it's like the most important thing in the world, we can't ever let this injustice stand. Now he's like, yeah, what's the big deal? Google searches are down, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Come on, Fox News and CNN all of a sudden agree. You know what? That makes me think it's Israel 10 times more.
Now look, obviously we're spitting fire at the Republicans or conservatives over at Fox News, whether it's Jesse Watters or Will Cain. But it's really important to talk about the fact that, look, for me, this is not a partisan issue. Okay, I'm not taking a political side on this. I want the release of the Epstein files, and anyone standing in the way is super sus or suspect. Okay, so when Democrats were in charge, Senator Dick Durbin, a Democrat, did stand in the way of the release of the Epstein files. And now he's turning around and saying, would you look at that? Republicans are not allowing for the release of the Epstein files. So let me just give you more details on that. So back in 2023, for instance, Jesse Watters slammed the Democratic senator because Durbin, who was the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee at the time, stated that Senator Marsha Blackburn, who filed the request to release the Epstein files, didn't turn in the necessary paperwork. But now, fast forward to 2025, when Republicans are in charge, and Durbin's like, what's up with the Epstein files? Why aren't you releasing them? Because it's just
nonsense. No way.
None of these people are serious. They don't care about you, man. They don't care about you. They don't care about the victims. It just grosses me out beyond words.
There's one huge silver lining here, which is this, among a couple of other issues, is waking the whole country up. Because look, we've never cared about partisanship. So I agree more with the Democratic Party's ideology, theoretical ideology and policies. So that's the direction I go politically, right? But they're not my uncle. And so if they're not going in the right direction, will we criticize Democrats? Well, if you're new to the show, just ask around. The Democrats' leadership especially has a history of loathing us because we constantly criticize them.
Because we call them out when they're liars, as Dick Durbin is in this case. One of his recent statements in regard to the Epstein files goes as follows. It's clear that President Trump and Attorney General Bondi are directly responsible for the confusion and mistrust around the Epstein cover-up. What about your role in the Epstein cover-up when Democrats were in charge?
Yeah, so that's why, guys, I'm tired of all this stuff. I just want policies and issues, right? So here, I'm an ally of anyone who wants the actual Epstein files released, and for us to find out who actually did it, right? Because it wasn't just Epstein and Maxwell, there was over 1,000 girls. Anyone pretending it was just Epstein and Maxwell is guilty and probably works for a foreign government or the CIA. One of those two, there's only two good things that are powerful enough to do this. It's not Bill Clinton who's way out of power. It's not even just Donald Trump. No way, one party cannot do this. Both parties, the entire government has to agree. There's only one thing that the entire government agrees on, which is loyal obedience to Israel or the CIA. So what you have here is, I don't give a damn about partisanship. And I'm worried that if the Democrats are back in charge, what they're gonna do is all of a sudden they're gonna flip again.
Of course.
And I can't stand it.
No, I can't either.